Okay, so you begin to get the idea that this is an extremely long process. A book can take anything from 1 to 5 years to write, and that's your first draft, before you've done all that really in-depth editing work. So anytime you go on the internet, you're going to find people telling you, polish your manuscript, polish your manuscript. So that's what they mean by editing. They mean really go in with a forensic eye to your manuscript and edit. Now, the next piece of advice I give is, if you have a friend who's an editor, brilliant, use them. But if you don't, I really do advise that you save up a bit of money. You phone up, because we're here, we're living in Ireland, phone up a publishing house in Ireland and ask them, because invariably there's a lot of freelance editors, ask them who would they recommend. Be as professional as you possibly can be about your writing. And, you know, treat it with the respect that it deserves. So find out if there's a good editor, a freelance editor, phone them up, ask them how much they cost how much their fees are to read through your manuscript. And they will give you feedback. Now, how this tends to work is you can send them a hard copy of your work, which means a printed out copy of your manuscript, and they'll go through that and they'll make notes and they'll send you back detailed notes of where they think you need to really tighten up the text. The other way that you can do it is digitally. You can email them your manuscript, and what they'll tend to do then is they'll colour code certain passages in your manuscript, and they'll say, you know, this needs to go, or this is very unclear. You know, you haven't used a proper name here for the last 4 pages. You keep talking of someone called she, and really we're losing interest in her because we don't have a name. So they'll go through every aspect of your manuscript. They may even say, listen, really sorry, you're going to have to do an awful lot more work on this, you know. Expect to write to your book at least 4 times before it goes to print. At the very minimum, 4 times. So you'll do your first draft, you'll tidy up with your own edits, you'll get editorial advice and they will give you feedback, and be prepared to argue out some points. Do defend your art, understand why you're doing what you're doing in your text, but don't throw away good advice, even if it's very hard to hear. If they're saying, listen, your main character is absolutely unappealing, you're going to have to give her or him a much more appealing personality. I don't, you know, like him at all, and I think he's going to be very difficult to sell as a main character. You've got to listen to this feedback and think, okay, what can I do to fix this? So be prepared to fight some battles, because, you know, you should know why you're doing what you're doing, but then others you do have to acquiesce. Do not think that writing a book is a totally autonomous process. It is not. When you're sitting on your own, at your computer, absolutely you're on your own. But the minute you want to bring it into the published world, you can forget it. It's a project then where other people have their hands stuck in the pie. And you've got to accept, some of them are going to be brilliant, absolutely wonderful professionals. Some of them aren't, and you're going to have to decide, do you want to stay working with these people or not? They may not get you work. But at this phase, you've got feedback from this editor that you have employed. You've got to sit down and analyse what information and feedback they've given you. And invariably you will see them make a really obvious point that you'll think, why didn't I see that? You know, how could I have missed this glaring mistake or glaring, you know, obvious thing? Invariably it's because you're the writer and you're handling a huge project that involves an awful lot of threads. So you need this objective outside eye to come along and just point out certain things to you. So take that on board. And then there's the next phase.